My work is about designerly approaches to park and recreation strategies. It's an area that overlaps parks and rec. It overlaps public health and architecture and landscape architecture together. My name is Peter Aeschbacher. I'm an associate professor of landscape architecture and architecture at Penn State University. I also work with the Hamer Center for Community Design there. Conventional park assessment strategies are based on ideas that were built up in the 1920s and the 1930s when the big battle was to get green spaces put into cities. So the assessment strategies tend to be deductive, numerically based ones in which we count up the number of parks, their acreage, and we try to make sure that there are at least 10 acres per 1,000 population in a specific geographic area. And this is a model that comes out of advocacy for having parks in the first place. Today we're used to the idea that parks are familiar amenities in communities or in new developments, but we're not talking about the quality of those parks. We're not talking about what people do. So rather than talking about facilities approaches that came up in the 1960s, what we're trying to do is shift the conversation to opportunities. People are interested in the opportunity to have a contact with nature, to engage in some sort of physical activity, to meet or to be around other people, or to spend time connecting with history, culture, or a sense of place at a park. When we mix these activities together, both with parks as destinations, but also the mode of getting to a park, we can increase active living in an individual's overall life. One of the things that I thought was most important when we started the study was to visit every single park in our area. And there are 109 sites that are listed as parks. And my hunch was like, yeah, really? Let's go see what those are all about. And so I MapQuested them, and I figured out where they were, and I drove around in the university vehicle, and I knocked on doors, and I asked people, excuse me, there's a thing marked here on the map that's a park. Are you familiar could you tell me where that is? And in often cases, it was a fairly surprising outcome, because in some cases, yeah, there were parks. In other cases, they were simply natural areas behind people's houses that they were very glad to find out were actually reserved forever to be nature and not to be redeveloped, but that they didn't really know, but that they were using anyway. And in some cases, they turned out to be median strips and the sort of centers of intersections at larger traffic connections. And all of those count towards a township's general plan element on parks and recreation. And it was very interesting to visit them because of the absolute range, and especially to look at how do people use them even if they don't know that they're parks. Because that, to some degree, is what parks are really about, which is a kind of third space. It's not home and it's not work, but it's a place where you do things that you can do in neither spot.